Got a buffalo nickel lying around? Moneybag, you might be sitting on a coin worth thousands. Money with Wings. In this video from HD Old Coins 51, we uncover the shocking secrets behind the USA Buffalo 5 cents coin, why collectors are scrambling to find them, how to spot a hidden fortune, and which dates could change your life instantly. Don't miss out on this treasure hunt. Top 1. In the crisp air of early 20th century America, a time when jazz music flowed through smoky lounges and Model T Fords rattled down dusty roads, a small yet powerful symbol of the nation's rugged past was minted. Born from the imagination of a sculptor and forged in nickel. The year was 1925, a time of silent films, speakeasies, and the powerful hum of an America changing faster than ever before. And in the palm of a hard-working man's hand, jingling in the pockets of railroad workers and tradesmen, was a coin no larger than a thumbnail, yet carrying a legacy far larger than itself. That coin was the 1925 Buffalo nickel, also known to collectors and historians as the 1925 Buffalo 5 cents. The coin tells a story, a tale of grit, pride, and identity. It speaks not only of commerce, but of a nation's respect for its heritage, for the native peoples who came long before, and for the raw, wild strength of the American bison, a creature as iconic as the coin it inspired. As the world outside America's borders roared with revolution, war recovery, and modernization, the United States was carving its own cultural identity. On one side of this coin, a stoic Native American gazes to the right, immortalized in profile with feathers draping from his headdress and determination set deep in his brow. On the reverse, a mighty buffalo stands tall and grounded, a sentinel of the plains, the very heartbeat of a vanishing frontier. But why, you might ask, is this coin so captivating? Why do collectors today seek the 1925 Buffalo nickel with such hunger and reverence, sometimes bidding thousands at auctions for a piece barely worth 5 cents at face value? The answer lies in history, rarity, art, and the emotional magnetism of a time lost to the modern age. The Buffalo nickel was first introduced in 1913, replacing the Liberty Head nickel that had circulated since the 19th century. President Theodore Roosevelt, in his push to beautify American coinage, had paved the way for coins that were more than just monetary instruments. They were art. The U.S. Mint commissioned James Earl Fraser, a sculptor who had grown up in the American Midwest and carried in his heart the imagery of Native Americans in the sweeping grasslands. He captured that vision in his design, giving birth to one of the most enduring and artistically admired coins ever produced by the United States Mint. By the time 1925 arrived, the Buffalo nickel had already been in circulation for over a decade, yet the year would mark one of the more elusive and fascinating issues in the series. Struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark, the 1925 Buffalo nickel came during a time of transition for both the coin and the country. America was roaring, but not yet aware of the Great Depression that loomed just a few years away. The mint was grappling with the technical challenges of Fraser's intricate design, particularly with how quickly the date and details wore down with use. As a result, many of the coins minted in 1925 began to lose their defining features in circulation. This made well-preserved specimens extremely rare and valuable decades later. When one holds a pristine 1925 Buffalo nickel today, its details crisp, the Native American's cheekbone high and shadowed, the bison's hump textured with fine lines. A collector isn't just holding a coin. They are holding a relic, a survivor of time. These nickels were not hoarded in rolls. They circulated in the hands of real Americans. They were changed in paychecks, slotted into gumball machines, and collected in jars that sat atop old wooden radios. Each one bears the fingerprints of history. The process of minting these coins was complex. The Philadelphia Mint produced the 1925 Buffalo nickel in large numbers, over 35 million pieces, but most of these were never meant to last. The dies used to strike the coins often wore quickly, which led to soft strikes. The design, while beautiful, featured raised details that were vulnerable to abrasion. That's why today, finding a coin from 1925 with sharp definition is a true rarity. Many show weak strikes, particularly on the buffalo's horn and the Native American's hair details. And then there's the human element, the stories whispered through time by these small artifacts. Each coin carries an aura, a journey of where it might have traveled. Did it change hands in a dusty general store in Wyoming? Was it dropped by a young boy buying a soda on a hot summer day in Ohio? Perhaps it was saved by a World War I veteran, returning from Europe and beginning a new life in the land he fought for. These are the unseen tales every 1925 Buffalo nickel holds within it, and collectors feel that energy, that intangible magnetism. When they add one to their collection, it's not just about metal content or mintage numbers. It's about connection to history, to heritage, to a vision of America that is both romantic and raw. And of course, for those who chase rarity, condition is king. Among the millions minted, only a very few survive today in high mint state grades. These are the crown jewels for any numismatist. In 2021, a 1925 Buffalo nickel-graded MS-66 by PCGS sold at a Heritage Auctions event for a staggering $6,000, commanding attention from bidders worldwide. The coin's surfaces were pristine, its strike unusually strong for the year, and its eye appeal undeniable. Collectors recognized not just the grade, but the opportunity, the chance to own a piece of numismatic art in its highest form. The auction took place in Dallas, Texas, where modern skyscrapers stand above streets once tread by cattlemen and traders. Fitting for a coin that bridges America's past and present. The bidding was intense, with seasoned collectors and fresh faces alike raising paddles in pursuit of this gleaming nickel. When the hammer finally fell, applause broke out. It wasn't just a transaction. It was a celebration. Even lesser-grade specimens of the 1925 Buffalo nickel hold significant value today. A coin in VF30, very fine condition, can fetch around $20 to $35, while coins in $50 Australian dollars, almost uncirculated, range upward of $50. But once a coin reaches the rare air of MS65 and beyond, the sky's the limit. Dealers across the country, whether in coin shops in New York, online marketplaces, or major shows in cities like Long Beach and Chicago, are always on the lookout for the finest examples. What makes the 1925 Buffalo nickel even more desirable is its standalone appeal. Unlike some dates in the series that may rely on conditional rarity or low mintage alone, this coin combines history, artistic richness, and nostalgia. Collectors new to the hobby find it approachable, while advanced collectors seek the finest specimens for registry sets. Its presence enhances any collection, not just for its value, but for the emotion it evokes. As time marches forward, the number of well-preserved 1925 Buffalo nickels continues to decline. Coins are lost, damaged, or remain hidden in forgotten drawers. Each one that surfaces at auction or from an old estate is a rediscovery. It's a whisper from the past, a reminder of the artistry that once clinked casually in an everyday pocket. And so, in the vaults of collectors, in the glass cases of museums, in the homes of passionate hobbyists, the 1925 Buffalo nickel endures. It is more than metal. It is a chapter in America's story, etched in nickel, worn by time, and valued by those who understand that even the smallest relic can carry the heaviest legacy. Top 2. It was the middle of the Great Depression, a time when every cent counted, when men stood in breadlines and families clung to hope like a warm coat on a freezing winter's night. In 1934, the United States was still crawling out from under the economic rubble of the 1929 stock market crash. Against this grim backdrop, a humble nickel found its way into the pockets and palms of everyday Americans. But this was no ordinary coin. This was the Buffalo nickel, a 5-cent piece that carried the wild soul of a young nation and the artistry of a bygone era. And the 1934 issue, though modest in appearance, holds stories etched in its worn edges and rugged design. To hold a 1934 Buffalo nickel is to grip a slice of American history. The coin's surface, aged with time, speaks volumes to those who listen. Designed by James Earl Fraser, a sculptor deeply influenced by the fading American frontier, the Buffalo nickel was more than currency, it was a tribute. On one side, The powerful profile of a Native American chief stares into eternity, a composite of three great tribal leaders, Iron Tail, Two Moons, and possibly Big Tree. His expression is proud yet somber, like the echo of a people whose lands were slowly taken, whose stories were at risk of being lost. Out on the reverse stands the great American bison, symbol of the plains, strength, and the American wilderness itself. Fraser modeled it after Black Diamond, a bison from the Bronx Zoo, capturing its massive form with such realism that collectors and artists alike marvel at it to this day. It's a coin that doesn't just represent money, it represents memory, heritage, and the struggle to survive. In 1934, production of the Buffalo nickel resumed after a one-year hiatus in 1933 when no nickels were struck for circulation. Only two mints struck the coin that year, Philadelphia and Denver. No nickels came from San Francisco in 1934. The Philadelphia Mint struck around 20 million coins, while the Denver Mint added just under 7 million. Yet, even among millions, few remain today in pristine condition. Time and commerce have worn them down, turning once sharp details into smooth surfaces and muted contours. That is why collectors hunt for the gems, those rare nickels that somehow escaped decades of pockets, purses, and piggy banks. The coin's edges are smooth from years of use, but in the right lighting and condition, the raised features still shimmer with the spirit of 1934. The Liberty along the edge of the obverse, the date near the Native American shoulder, and the phrase 5 cents nestled beneath the bison's hooves all bear witness to a time when art met utility in the most American of ways. But not all 1934 Buffalo nickels are equal. The Denver minted variety, bearing the small D mint mark beneath the 5 cents, commands special attention from serious numismatists. And when these nickels appear at auctions, the results can be staggering. One particularly striking specimen, a 1934 D Buffalo nickel graded MS67 by PCGS, crossed the auction block at Stacksbowers in 2020. The bidding was fast, feverish, and fiercely competitive. When the hammer fell, the final price was an astounding $16,450, a testament to the enduring love collectors have for this coin and the rarity of finding such a high-grade survivor from the Great Depression era. This wasn't a fluke, either. Heritage Auctions sold a similar piece for over $11,000 in 2019, further proving that this 5-cent coin can carry the value of a car or even a small fortune in the right condition. Collectors are drawn to more than value. They're pulled by story, by design, by rarity, and by connection. The 1934 Buffalo nickel embodies all of that. It's more than metal. It's more than money. It's a monument, a rugged survivor of hard times, with the roughness of history etched into every strike. Finding one in your change today is almost a miracle, but owning a high-grade version? That's a trophy few can boast. What gives the 1934 Buffalo nickel its magnetic pull is the delicate balance between its commonness and circulated condition and its elusiveness in mint state. It was heavily used, passed from hand to hand in 5 and dime stores, through gas stations, diners, and soda fountains. Most were never stored, never preserved. They lived their lives fully. So when a pristine one appears, it sparks electricity among coin enthusiasts. And then there's the human story. Imagine a young boy in 1934, dirt on his knees, holding a new Buffalo nickel in his palm. He might buy a candy bar or use it toward a Saturday movie ticket. Decades later, that same coin might find its way into a collector's album, a tangible connection between then and now. A bridge of time. Even its flaws add to its charm. The Buffalo nickel design, although beautiful, had problems from the start. Its high relief led to rapid die wear. The date was placed on a high point, making it prone to being rubbed smooth through circulation. That's why many Buffalo nickels are dateless today. But when the date is bold and the strike is sharp, collectors know they've found a diamond in the rough. 1934 is an especially interesting year. The country was slowly beginning to recover. The New Deal programs were in full effect. Confidence was returning, albeit slowly. And the nickel in a man's hand wasn't just for a purchase, it was a symbol of things turning around. The Buffalo nickel saw people through tough times. It was the coin of perseverance. In modern times, it has become one of the most beloved and recognized coins in U.S. numismatics. Shows, auctions, and online marketplaces buzz with interest whenever a high-grade example surfaces. And stories abound of lucky finds, garage sales, estate boxes, attic discoveries, where forgotten buffalo nickels, including those from 1934, are uncovered like buried treasure. The market remains hot, especially for coins graded by trusted services like PCGS and NGC. An MS-66 1934 buffalo nickel can fetch thousands. The eye appeal matters. Rich luster, crisp detail, and minimal marks are the ingredients that separate a decent coin from a jaw-dropper. Full horn detail on the bison's head? That's gold to a collector. Add in strong strike and clear legends, and you have the makings of a showstopper. This is why some coin enthusiasts dedicate years, decades even, chasing the perfect 1934 buffalo nickel. For them, it's not about investment. It's about the chase, the love of history, the joy of holding a piece of America in their hand. And the coin market has only grown. Shows in cities like Chicago, Orlando, and Long Beach feature buffalo nickels as highlights. Dealers display them in velvet-lined cases. Collectors huddle and negotiate. Every tiny detail, rim condition, luster, strike sharpness, can mean the difference between a few $100s and a few thousand. And while the 1934 buffalo nickel may have begun life as an everyday coin meant for everyday use, today it sits in a much loftier position. It's a prized possession, a talking point, a legacy item, passed down through generations, stored in bank vaults, traded amongst serious collectors. Each coin carries not just its own story, but the fingerprints of every hand it has touched along the way. Top 3. In the heart of the Great Depression, a time when every penny counted and dreams were often bought with nickels and dimes, one small coin emerged not just as currency, but as a cultural icon. The 1935 Buffalo 5-cent coin wasn't just pocket change. It was a reflection of America's enduring spirit, captured in metal, grit, and hope. Imagine a time when bread was a nickel, a gallon of gas was less than 15 cents, and families huddled around radios to hear President Roosevelt's fireside chats. In that very era, minted with a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, the 1935 Buffalo nickel rolled out of the U.S. mint presses, rugged, proud, and instantly unforgettable. This wasn't an ordinary coin. Its bold design captured the raw essence of a nation still reeling from economic hardship, yet fiercely clinging to its identity. On one side, a stoic Native American gazes with intensity, an amalgamation of 3 real-life tribal chiefs whose names have echoed through history: Iron Tail, Big Tree, and 2 Moons. Their strength and resilience, etched into every line of the engraving, told a silent story with every transaction. Flip the coin, and the iconic American bison dominates the reverse. A tribute to the Great Plains and the beasts that once thundered across the land in numbers beyond imagining. That bison, affectionately known as Black Diamond, was modeled after a real buffalo from the Central Park Zoo in New York City. Though his life was lived in captivity, his image came to symbolize freedom, wildness, and the vanishing frontiers of the American West. 1935 marked the second to last year of production for the Buffalo Nickel series, a beloved run that began in 1913 and would conclude in 1938. By this time, the dies used to strike the coins were showing signs of wear. The boldness of the original design had softened, and details like the date and features of the Native American were sometimes faint. Yet even with this fading, the 1935 issue carried something the others did not: finality. A closing chapter. And collectors took note. Over 58 million Buffalo nickels were struck in 1935 at the Philadelphia Mint. No mint mark needed, just the raw strength of the nation's primary minting facility. Though the mintage was relatively high, few specimens survived the ravages of time in pristine condition. Most were spent, traded, rubbed smooth in the palms of farmers, factory workers, and flapper girls alike. But here's where things get truly captivating. In recent years, The numismatic world has seen a sharp spike in interest surrounding well-preserved buffalo nickels, especially from the later years of production. The 1935 edition, while technically common in circulated grades, has become a shining star in the rarefied air of mint state and high-grade specimens. Sharp strikes, full horns on the bison, clean fields, and unblemished luster command significant premiums at auction. Picture this. In 2021, at the renowned Heritage Auctions in Dallas, Texas, a stunning 1935 Buffalo nickel-graded MS-68 by NGC crossed the block. The room hushed as the gavel hovered. When the final bid settled, jaws dropped. $57,600 was the winning bid. Yes, nearly $60,000 for a coin once worth 5 cents. That kind of return would make even the savviest stockbroker jealous. What makes a coin like that worth so much? It's not just rarity, it's condition, story, and symbolism. It's about a piece of American history held in your hand, nearly a century old, yet gleaming as if it had just left the minting press. It's the art, the craftsmanship, the nostalgia. And it's the ever-growing demand from collectors who see coins not just as money, but as masterpieces. The 1935 Buffalo nickel has transcended its monetary value. It's no longer simply a coin. It's a touchstone to a forgotten past, a gateway to stories of migration, hardship, triumph, and change. Collectors don't just seek this nickel, they pursue the meaning it holds, the hands it's passed through, the lives it might have touched. Even beyond auction floors and velvet-lined cases, stories abound. A man in Kansas discovers a nearly uncirculated 1935 Buffalo nickel in an old tobacco tin left by his grandfather. A woman in Florida finds one nestled in a drawer among antique buttons. Each story adds another layer to the coin's mystique, making the humble nickel a living legend. Top 4. It was the summer of 1936. America, though scarred by the Great Depression, was beginning to see glimmers of recovery. People gathered around radios in the evening, listening to President Roosevelt's fireside chats. In towns across the country, hope began to flicker once again. But amidst the headlines and hardship, there was one tiny piece of American craftsmanship that continued to circulate from hand to hand, often unnoticed, yet full of quiet significance: the Buffalo nickel. The 1936 Buffalo nickel wasn't just any coin. It was the final chapter in one of the most iconic coin series in American history. Since 1913, the Buffalo nickel had proudly carried the spirit of the American frontier in its design. And by the time 1936 rolled around, this coin had already become more than just 5 cents of change. It had become a symbol of the American West, of strength, resilience, and identity. Designed by James Earl Fraser, a student of the famed sculptor Augustus St. Gaudens, the Buffalo nickel brought something new to American coinage: a rugged, bold, and deeply American identity. The obverse bore the powerful profile of a Native American man, not based on a single individual, but a composite portrait drawn from several tribal leaders. Fraser himself once remarked that the image was a tribute to the vanishing race. It was raw. It was real. It was revolutionary for its time. Flip the coin over, and you're face to face with the majestic American bison, or as most simply call it, the buffalo. The model, believed to be a bison named Black Diamond, was housed at the Central Park Zoo. Fraser took great care to capture every curve and contour of the animal's powerful frame. The result was a reverse that stood out starkly from the classical, reserved coinage of earlier decades. In the middle of the Great Depression, a coin like this seemed a whisper of strength and endurance. In 1936, the United States Mint produced Buffalo nickels at 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia, the birthplace of the U.S. Mint, struck the most, nearly 119 million coins. Denver produced just over 24 million, while San Francisco, known for smaller mintages, released about 14 million. While the Philadelphia issue bore no mint mark, those struck in Denver and San Francisco carried a small D or S below the 5 cents on the reverse side. Today, that little letter can make a world of difference to collectors. But what makes the 1936 Buffalo nickel so compelling isn't just its design or its place in minting history. It's what happened after. As the end of the series approached, collectors began to realize the coin's significance. Though millions were made, many were spent and worn down in circulation. The ones that survived in high grades, sharp details, full horn on the bison, crisp feathers on the Native American's hair became increasingly rare. Rarity, as every coin collector knows, is the lifeblood of value. And then there's the matter of the 1936 D and 1936 S issues. While still relatively accessible to beginners, high-grade versions of these coins are highly desirable. But the real gem, the diamond in the rough, is the 1936 Buffalo nickel with the 3.5 legs variety. Yes, you heard that right. In Denver, a die polishing error resulted in a striking mistake. The front right leg of the buffalo was partially removed. Collectors dubbed it the 3.5 legs variety. It was a fluke, a beautiful accident. And that accident turned a regular nickel into a numismatic legend. When one of these 1936 D3.5 legs varieties appeared at auction in pristine condition, graded MS66 by PCGS, it shocked the collecting world. At a heritage auction sale, the coin sold for a jaw-dropping $99,875. That's right, nearly $100,000 for a 5-cent coin. But that's what happens when rarity, history, and flawless preservation collide. Even common 1936 Buffalo nickels can fetch impressive prices if they're in top condition. A Philadelphia issue in MS67 Plus condition once sold for over $13,000. Meanwhile, a San Francisco Mint coin in similarly pristine grade realized close to $6,500. These prices aren't just numbers. They're proof of the coin's enduring legacy, its desirability, its connection to a bygone era. Collectors today don't just see the 1936 Buffalo nickel as currency. They see it as art, as Americana, as a relic of a nation on the cusp of transformation. Each coin holds within it 1,000 stories of trades made, pockets worn, and lives touched. And yet, in the hands of a collector, under the right light, that little coin can still gleam like it did the day it left the mint. The bison still stands firm. The Native American still gazes into the distance. And the legacy of Fraser's vision of American strength lives on. So, the next time you stumble upon an old nickel at a flea market, or perhaps in your grandfather's drawer, take a closer look. You might just be holding a piece of 1936 in your palm. A piece of history. A 5-cent story worth far more than its face value. Top 5. In the vast expanse of American numismatic history, few coins capture the imagination quite like the 1937 Buffalo nickel. This iconic 5-cent piece, also known as the Indian head nickel, is more than just metal. It's a relic of a bygone era, a time capsule from a chapter of American history where the Great Depression was still fresh in memory, where art met coinage, and where a proud symbol of Native American heritage and the rugged American frontier was forever etched into the hearts of collectors. It is a coin that doesn't just tell a story, it is a story. And the year 1937 marks the end of that story's original run. Picture this. The year is 1937. Franklin D. Roosevelt is President of the United States. The nation is struggling to recover from the worst economic disaster in its history. People are clinging to whatever semblance of normalcy they can find. In their pockets, between the worn bills and jangling change, lies a coin with a stoic Native American on one side and a powerful American bison on the other. That coin was a symbol of pride, of strength, of resilience. That coin was the Buffalo nickel. The story of the Buffalo nickel actually began back in 1913. Designed by sculptor James Earl Fraser, a former assistant to the great Augustus St. Gaudens, the coin was meant to represent the true spirit of the American West. It replaced the Liberty Head nickel, which had grown stale in the eyes of many. Fraser wanted something new, something powerful, something unmistakably American. And that's exactly what he delivered. On the obverse side, a composite portrait of three Native American chiefs, Iron Tail, Two Moons, and possibly John Big Tree, forms the proud visage of a warrior facing right, his long hair tied, with the word Liberty etched just in front. Below the neck, the year of minting stands prominently, 1937. On the reverse, an American bison, commonly thought to be Black Diamond, a resident of the Bronx Zoo, stands atop a mound of dirt, above the legend United States of America and the denomination 5 cents. This design, both raw and noble, was loved by the public, but not without its flaws. Because of its high-relief design and exposed surfaces, the date and denomination wore down quickly. By the 1930s, many buffalo nickels in circulation were so smooth they were nearly unidentifiable. And yet, that imperfection only added to the charm. People loved them for their imperfections, just as they loved the country during its imperfect struggles. By 1937, the buffalo nickel was approaching the end of its legal production run. Coins had to be minted for 25 years before they could be replaced without an act of Congress, and the buffalo nickel was at year 24. In preparation for its replacement with the Jefferson nickel in 1938, the mint issued one final production year, 1937. That final year saw the coin minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with corresponding mint marks. The Philadelphia mint struck the highest number, without a mint mark. Denver, denoted by a small d, and San Francisco, marked with an S, struck comparatively fewer. But something curious happened in Denver that year, something that would catapult the 1937 D Buffalo nickel into the Numismatic Hall of Fame in error at a mistake that would become legend. Somewhere during production at the Denver Mint, a die used for striking the reverse side was overpolished. As a result, the bison's front leg, its right foreleg, vanished. Clean off. Gone. This wasn't just a minor scratch or die crack. It was an entire anatomical feature of the majestic beast completely missing from the coin. And it didn't take long for collectors to notice. Thus was born the 1937 D three-legged buffalo nickel, one of the most famous and coveted error coins in U.S. history. Today, that error coin is legendary. It's not just rare, it's desired. And its value has only grown with time. The average collector might never stumble upon one in pocket change, but on the auction block. That's where the story really gets exciting. Let's take a trip into the heart of the coin collecting world. Heritage auctions, numismatic expos, and high-profile coin conventions. Over the years, several pristine examples of the 1937 D three-legged buffalo nickel have fetched staggering sums. In January 2021, at a Heritage Auctions event in Dallas, Texas, a PCGS-graded MS-66 three-legged buffalo nickel sold for an astonishing $97,750. Nearly $100,000 for a coin that once bought a piece of candy. Why? Because it's not just about the nickel itself. It's about what it represents. The perfect storm of artistry, history, error, rarity, and American spirit. But let's not forget the rest of the 1937 Buffalo nickel mintage. Though the three-legged Denver error may grab headlines, the regular issue coins, especially those in high grade, are still highly desirable. A beautifully preserved 1937 Buffalo nickel from the Philadelphia Mint in MS-67 condition can bring in around $700 to $1,200 at auction. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint issue in a similar grade might fetch even more due to its lower survival rate in high grades. Each coin tells a slightly different story. Each mint mark, each die strike, each subtle variation gives collectors and historians another clue, another angle, another reason to love the Buffalo nickel. For the seasoned numismatist, the 1937 Buffalo nickel is more than just a collectible. It's a cornerstone of a collection. For the amateur, it's a thrilling gateway into the world of coin collecting. And for all who hold it, It's a reminder of America's rich and rugged past that in coin shows across the United States. From Long Beach, California, to Orlando, Florida, you'll find booths crowded with collectors thumbing through binders and peering through magnifiers, all hoping to find that perfect 1937 specimen. Dealers share tales of near misses and jackpot finds. Old-timers recount the days they used to pull buffalo nickels from soda machines and toss them into drawers, never knowing that a few decades later, some of them would be worth a small fortune. Stories abound of lucky estate sale hunters finding uncirculated rolls of 1937 buffalo nickels in old cigar boxes. One such tale emerged in 2015 in Ohio, where a man discovered a full roll of 1937 buffalo nickels, uncirculated, with one incredible surprise, a three-legged specimen gleaming among the rest. That coin later sold at Stack's Bowers in Baltimore for $62,500, a jaw-dropping sum, and a life-changing discovery for the amateur treasure hunter. Even online, the market thrives. eBay, Heritage, Great Collections, and other platforms regularly list graded examples of the 1937 Buffalo nickel, with prices ranging from modest collector grades at $10 to $40, all the way to thousands for premium mint state gems. But beyond the dollars and cents, there's something else that keeps the flame alive. It's the design. That bold, proud Native American face. That sturdy American bison, poised as if ready to charge. It's the feeling of holding history in your palm, of touching a piece of 1937 America, of imagining who else may have held that same coin, what stories it could tell if only it could speak. The design's resonance was so powerful that it inspired numerous commemorative issues decades later. In 2001, the U.S. Mint reissued a similar design for the American Buffalo commemorative coin. In 2006, it went even further, producing a pure gold $50 bullion coin with Fraser's original Buffalo nickel design, the first 24-karat gold coin ever issued by the U.S. Mint. Proof that the legacy of the Buffalo nickel did not end in 1937. It lives on, and speaking of legacy, collectors often say that coins like the 1937 Buffalo nickel aren't just investments, they're inheritances. Heirlooms. Pieces of art passed from one generation to the next, and few coins carry that intergenerational reverence quite like this one. A grandfather might pass down a coin collection to his granddaughter, carefully pointing to the 1937 Buffalo nickel and whispering, "This one's special." Indeed, it is, because even now, almost 9 decades later, the Buffalo nickel remains one of the most beloved coins in American history. And the 1937 edition, whether Philadelphia, San Francisco, or the elusive Denver era, is the swan song of an era. A final bow, a last glance at a design so American, so bold, so breathtaking, that it has never truly left the hearts of those who admire it.